and a tilt at the Sam Maguire in the Bank of Ireland Football Championship.
Hello and you're very welcome to Croke Park and the second of the All-Ireland football semi-finals. And what a marvellous, marvellous occasion it is for the people of Leitrim. 1927, of course, the last time they were Connacht champions. Now they're back again to savour the atmosphere of Croke Park on All-Ireland semi-final day. And I'm sure their supporters are going to greatly enjoy this occasion. Well, for John O'Mahony and the players, of course, there's something far more important to do. And that's try and win a place in this year's All-Ireland final against the mighty men from Dublin. Can they do it? Well, we'll find that out at about 3:30. In the minor match, Dublin will be hoping to make it a double today at Croke Park. They take on Galway. The Galway Miners hoping to emulate their hurlers because they've already qualified for the All-Ireland hurling final. But joining me today in the presentation box, we have Martin McHugh, well-known Donegal footballer, but now, of course, the manager with Cavan. And also with us is Colm O'Rourke, ongoing Meath footballer. No talk about management yet in his career. We'll be talking to the two gentlemen a little bit later on, getting their opinions on both the senior game and the minor match. We also have with us this afternoon Anthony Davis from Cork. He'll be joining us on the panel a little bit later on. However, down by pitch side on this beautiful sunny day here in Dublin is Marty Morrissey. Let's hear the latest news from him.
Thank you very much, Michael, and I can tell you that there is a huge Leitrim contingent down here at the canal end, but equally outside Croke Park, waiting for the bus to arrive with the Leitrim football team for the first time in 67 years, is a massive crowd with green and gold everywhere. Inside, in the just here on the touchline, is a man who refereed the 91 All-Ireland final between Down and Meath, Seamus Pryor, a Leitrim man, and of course today you're on the sideline. Very nervous, I'd say, Seamus Pryor.
Oh, nervous is right, Marty. Very near as nervous if I was out there in the middle refereeing, but it's a great occasion. As you know, we're looking into the canal end here, and to see all the Leitrim supporters. I walked around outside earlier on, and to see them coming down Jones's Road and everything, I thought I'd never see the day. I think I've seen every other county in Ireland coming except my own, and to see Leitrim coming today, I'm a very, very proud man, and I can assure you there's not very many people left back at home.
When Clare came out onto the pitch in 92, I think tears were coming down Clare people's cheeks. Will it be the same for Leitrim around 3:20?
Oh, undoubtedly, Martin, yeah. But you see, I think what's most important, that Leitrim must take a leaf out of the Clare book. If we come out and get the start that Clare got, well, then I can assure you, when the time that Tommy Sugo blows the final whistle, we'll be right in there with a big shout, and hopefully we'll have our place booked in the 94 All-Ireland final against Down.
You won't be too disappointed if Leitrim get to the All-Ireland final. You won't be refereeing.
Oh, I'll be a very proud man if Leitrim gets to the All-Ireland final, and I will be delighted to see, well, 20 Leitrim men out there rather than one. But again, Marty, it's a great occasion and marvellous to see it, and I think for the people that worked so hard with the team, John O'Mahony, the whole entire county board, they have done a tremendous job, a professional job, I must say, and they deserve a lot of credit, and we are very proud of them, Marty.
Well, Seamus Pryor, we look forward to what promises to be a great match and great atmosphere here at Croke Park. But meanwhile, it's back to you, Michael Lester.
Thanks, Marty. We'll be hearing from Marty, of course, throughout the afternoon here on the programme. I was down in Leitrim during the week, and I must say the atmosphere down in the county was something special and was something to see. And the colour, the flags, reminded me in actual fact, Martin McHugh, of Donegal when you were making your way to the All-Ireland final. Ironically, the colours were the same as well, but every house had a flag, a teddy bear, a good wish for the players.
Yeah, well, that's something, you expect with Leitrim, because they haven't been there for 67 years, and it's great for the people of Leitrim, and it's great for people that thought they would never see the day. And the exact same thing was in Donegal in 92. There was a lot of people who just shed tears. They didn't expect to see the day they would see Donegal in an All-Ireland final, and it's great for them, and they're all here to enjoy it. And the only thing I hope is that the team are not just coming up for a day out, that they're coming up believing they're good enough to do it, and then they're in with a chance.
There's been a couple of great years, Colm, in football from that point of view. Teams emerging like Leitrim and, of course, like Clare. Donegal, I suppose, to some degree as well, although you've been there maybe a little bit more than the others, but to win the All-Ireland. So it's been fabulous to see, like, new teams come to Croke Park.
Yeah, I think the standard has seemed to even out a little bit. there's none of the great teams that you had maybe in the past when you had Dublin and Kerry dominating in the 70s and everybody else was a long way behind. Now there's 10 or 12 teams under similar standing, and every year there's nearly a new team emerging from some province or other. And before it was Clare, coming from a province was traditionally dominated by Cork and Kerry. Now we have Leitrim coming from Connacht, which was traditionally dominated, of course, by Mayo and Roscommon and Galway. And in Ulster you have had Derry and Down and Donegal. So that in Leinster it's really the only province where there hasn't been any major change over the last 25 years.
Just as we're talking, Colm, the Leitrim team are actually taking their place out under the Hogan stand to watch the minor match. And Martin, I suppose this will be a very nervous occasion for the players. The day has arrived now and they've waited for this for several weeks.
Yeah, well, I think it's important that they come in early and they soak up the atmosphere and they check the pitch to see what studs they're going to wear and all that. It makes them feel happy within themselves. I believe that John O'Mahony, having been there in '89, will definitely be a big help to them because he'll be able to give his experience to the players, and that is definitely going to be a big factor to them to have a man like that with them.
Colm, let's turn our attention for the moment to the minor match because both sets of minor teams are now out on the pitch. Surprisingly, for a county like Dublin, they've been out of the minor scene here for something like 6 years. Meath, in fact, have been responsible for some of that. Yeah,
Meath have been responsible for quite a bit of it because over the last 10 years, Meath have really been very successful at underage level. The big problem, as I see it, and being involved in school football, is the Dublin school scene has gone rapidly downhill over that period. And there's none of the traditional Dublin schools dominating in Leinster colleges like there used to be. And again, there's a complete shift of emphasis and strength to teams like St. Pat's and Navan, I suppose St. Mel's and Longford there. But St. Peter's and Wexford now have become very prominent, Marist at Lone. And most of the good teams in Leinster are outside of Dublin, whereas 10 years ago, St. David's and St. Joseph's and St. Aidan's, they were the colleges who were dominating and supplying the minors. And I think that really and truly, when it comes down to brass tacks, Dublin underage football has suffered badly at the hands of soccer. And the Leinster Council have acted by putting in all these full-time coaches, and I think that will reap dividends in the future.
So therefore it is important for Dublin minor football that they win today, I suppose, and that they come through the championship this year to show that there's talent coming through.
Yes, because again, maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago when Dublin were at their peak, every young fella wanted to play with Dublin in Croke Park, and I suppose that has changed a little bit. I'd say more important than Dublin winning the minor would be Dublin to win a senior All-Ireland, yeah. And I would think that would give it a massive boost because I'm sure Martin knows the boost that it gave Donegal. I can see the successful teams of underage in 89, 90, 91 in Meath were a direct result of the All-Irelands of 87 and 88. And I think the same thing would happen in Dublin if they could get an All-Ireland.
Martin, Colm mentions the influence of colleges teams that has now sort of shifted in Leinster, I suppose, to some of the Meath colleges. Now, this is also true of the Galway team because this present Galway side are backboned by the St. Jarlath's team who won the All-Ireland this year. Yeah,
well, that's very important, Michael, because the fact that they've been playing together will help them when they go on to the minor team. And I've seen the Galway team in the Connacht final play, and they are a good side. They play well together, and Michael Donlan, the centre forward, is a player worth watching today.
There's a few interesting names on this team. You mentioned Michael Donlan. He's son of John Donlan, of course, who captained Galway 30 years ago. Also, of course, Michael's grandfather was also played in the All-Ireland here, so keeping on the family tradition.
Yeah, it's great to see it, and it's nice. A lot of people, the older people, will be watching Michael Donlan to compare him with his father of before, and it'll be interesting to see what they think of him and all that. So he's a very good player. I've seen him in the Connacht final.
It's also interesting, Martin, that also on the Galway team playing wing forward number 12 today for Galway's Pádraig Joyce. He's a nephew of Billy Joyce, who soldiered long and hard for Galway football at senior level through the 70s, and also in the subs is Mark Waldron, and he's son of Joe Waldron, who also played for Galway during that period. So great family connections here today at Croke Park. We're going to take a commercial break. We're back with a minor match after that. For the Leitrim players to come out here at Croke Park, but I can guarantee you one thing, when they do so, there is going to be a rapturous cheer and applause from their supporters who have waited many a long day to see this kind of occasion. And here they come, the men from Leitrim. Listen to this. So this is the historic photograph then at Croke Park of the Leitrim team for their All-Ireland semi-final meeting with Dublin. Our commentator for the big match is Gerard Canning. Let's go over to him for the team news.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, a highly novel pairing, one representing 1.5 million people and the other from the so-called Cinderella County with a total population of only 25,000. It's funny, but one of the local Leitrim papers, and I was up there during the week, actually published a map of how to find Croke Park when you got to Dublin. They found it, and they're here in huge numbers. And there's Tom Gannon, 95 years of age. He was the centre half-back on the last Leitrim team, and captain, of course, when they won in 1927. And there was that great photograph of himself and the current captain, Declan Darcy, the day they won in Dr. Hyde Park, proving that there's still a little bit of romance left in sport. Beside me here, I've got Colm O'Rourke, and Colm, well, the colours are much the same for the doubles. It's the magnificent green and gold all over the place, and it seems as though 3/4 of the crowd here are supporting the Connacht champions.
Yes, it's an incredible occasion, fantastic atmosphere. It's just a pity that it's not two green and gold teams that are playing against each other. But anyway, I suppose we'll forgive the Dubs this one, but I don't know why they bothered with the seats today, because all the Leitrim people, when the team came out in the field, they're all standing up, all cheering. Everybody seems to have a flag. Incredible atmosphere around the ground. It promises to be a great occasion for Leitrim.
And the Dublin side, who've taken over, as usual, Hill 16. Thousands upon thousands of Dubs here as well. They're not taking it for granted by any manner of means. They were in here about 2 o'clock, packing up very quickly indeed. As always, they bring their own banter and their colour with them, and they are tremendous supporters. They follow their team all around the country. But today, I think they recognise that at least 31, perhaps 31 and a half counties in Ireland are supporting the minnows from Leitrim. All manner of flag and bunting. In fact, Leitrim more or less took over Dublin since last Friday. And a chance now, indeed, to get down to the serious business of match analysis, and we'll start by checking on the two teams. Dublin selectors had to take account of Paul Curran's broken jaw and the loss of form of Paul Beelan. Paul Clark gets the right half-back position, with Vinnie Murphy virtually a second-half match winner against Meath coming into the half-forward line. Switches, however, are expected, and suffice to say that these are the numbers that they'll wear this afternoon. Dublin, the 10-1 on favourites with the bookies. Leitrim leave well and good alone, retaining the 15 that won the Nestor Cup, bridging a 67-year gap between championship wins. Noel Moran gave some concern over a knee injury, but he's down to start in a side that shows positional switches in the half-forward line. Pádraig Kenny and former All-Star Mickey Quinn changing wings on Leitrim football's biggest ever day. So that's the build-up as we go back momentarily to Michael Lester.
Yes, Gerard Canning mentioned there that it looked like 3/4 of the stadium here at Croke Park were populated by Leitrim people. There's absolutely no doubt at all about that. Martin McHugh, it reminded me of the All-Ireland final of a few years ago when your own county came out here for the first time in their history, on a magical occasion.
Yeah, it's great. It took back great memories for me that there to see Leitrim coming out there and seeing all, especially the green and gold again, and it's great for them, and they're going to definitely enjoy the occasion, and the players will enjoy it, and it's an occasion that nobody can tell you what it's like. It's just to be there and go out there. It's just great.
It must be something like absolutely stirring. It must be something to raise the hairs in the back of your neck.
Yeah, well, you just put everything else out of your mind for that time. When you come out onto the field, and but I done it, just came out as cool as I could, and I took in the whole atmosphere of the occasion. I didn't want to miss it, and I mean, we had planned to do that, and I mean, it's great. It's something that these Leitrim men will never forget. The whole county will never forget this day.
Well, Martin, sitting beside you for our next part of our analysis, some famous faces in the crowd there. Charlie McGettigan, who of course is making his own little bit of fame earlier on the year, the Eurovision Song Contest, and wearing the Leitrim jersey. All right, and John O'Mahony, the Leitrim manager, he's been here on a previous occasion, of course, as well, with Mayo, and back at Croke Park for the big day. Also joining us, as I was just about to say, on the panel here this afternoon, we have Anthony Davis of Cork. Delighted to see you, Anthony, looking fit and well, because the last time we saw you here, you were wearing a towel or a turban on your head after a dreadful clash of heads, actually, in fairness.
Yeah, it was very unlucky, really, but it actually looked worse than what it was. Danny didn't come out too well out of it, Danny Cullity, but just sorry for Danny to see Danny going off because it was 12 months training gone down the drain. Sure. But I was glad to be able to carry on it.
He went off in a bad state, but he's back again football even.
Yeah, he played last night for Duhallow in the championship. Castlehaven beat them in the quarter-final. And Danny's a tough head, you know, and good footballer, and he'll be back again, I hope.
Good stuff. Well, listen, good to see both of you back in fit again. OK, we've talked about the colour, the atmosphere and the excitement of this game, but Tony, on a real level, what are Leitrim's chances here today, do you think?
Leitrim are really, really up against it today. They're playing a Dublin team that will be at a higher level of any team they've played so far this year. I think everybody is hoping that Leitrim will make a contest of it, but they'll really find it hard to beat Dublin.
Martin, we talked about the great atmosphere when Leitrim came out onto the pitch today, the colour and the excitement, but I suppose in a way that's going to motivate the Dubs as well, because they're going to say to themselves, well, we're quite new fairly quickly.
But I think the Dublin team will be thinking that they should have won an All-Ireland before now, and they're figuring out that this is their year and they're really going to give it. I think the one thing about Dublin, Paul Curran is going to be a big loss to the Dublin team. Yes. Even if it's for the short kick-outs, that John O'Leary used to always hit him with 3 or 4 short kick-outs in every match. So that's going to be a miss. The other clash that I'm going to be interested to watch is George Dugdale against Keith Parr. Now, Keith Parr has played totally defensive this year. He's not going forward, so he's actually holding the middle better. And Dugdale hadn't a good Connacht final, but he definitely is a good player, and I would expect more from him today.
All right, Martin, well, it's an intriguing prospect. The parade is about to begin. Let's go back again to Ger Canning.
Yes, we continue to enjoy this enormous splash of colour here. Pictures that have been seen today all over the world and across America in particular, where they're getting up at the crack of dawn in some places, especially Leitrim exiles and Dublin exiles as well. People wishing Leitrim well in the Ferncliff and the Catskills. Michael and Mary from Dublin wish them all well. And I wonder will this little lady here remember her day coming to Croke Park? That's a girl, I hope. Well, if it's a little fella, my apologies. Leitrim's 114th championship match. They've won just 29 so far. The 29th, that most valuable one 4 weeks ago. Leitrim last played in Croke Park in April 1959. That was in the National League semi-final. Parky McGarty was captain that day, and Derry beat them. Dublin here with their great, strong tradition of strong runs through Leinster and into the All-Ireland series. 21 times All-Ireland victors, and Leitrim with just 2 provincial wins so far. Some of the intriguing ties, Colm, that we're looking forward to this afternoon. How will Brian Steins, do you think, do in midfield, and what's the way to negative his influence? Is it to crowd out midfield?
Well, I think Brian Steins probably had his least effective game of his championship career so far in the Leinster final, because Colin Brady picked him up on those runs that he makes forward. But if Leitrim don't do that, he's a very dangerous player. He gets into goal-scoring positions, which is unusual for a midfielder. And in the Kildare match and the Louth match in the championship, he cropped up right inside everybody, and it seems to be a tactical ploy of Dublin that they get him forward as much as possible. So whoever picks him up from a Leitrim point of view, I would suspect it will be Pat Donoghue, and he certainly will have to play an ultra-defensive match, because Brian Steins is probably one Dublin player who is likely to score a goal.
Yes, he certainly has added an awful lot to Dublin's cause this year. Up on the hill, he's become a great favourite. Leitrim were the first to break from that parade. Declan Darcy led his side straight into their positions, and Dublin have gone across, as you can see, into their familiar huddle.
I don't think the Dublin players or the fans on Hill 16 are impressed by the last 2 games here, the Leinster final and this match, that the parade didn't go down as far as the hill. I think it's maybe a little bit of a pity, because it goes around the other sides of the pitch. It should really go down to the hill and back the full way around under the Hogan stand.
Of course, it's when they break after the anthem now that Leitrim will be aware for the first time just what switches they're about to make, if any. We'd expect Charlie Redmond and Desi Farrell perhaps to switch corners. All that will be by the way after our national anthem, Our On the Veal. sung with such gusto by Leitrim fans here in Croke Park, probably for the very first time, so many of them supporting their own county. And now Dublin breaking into their positions. We've noted that Leitrim, by the way, have brought Pádraig Kenny to left half forward in a switch, a direct switch with Mickey Quinn. Pat Gilroy has gone straight away to right half forward on Jerry Flanagan. And coming to midfield is Jack Sheedy to partner Brian Steins. And Tommy Sugru, having already refereed 2 All-Ireland finals in 1988 and 1992, taking charge of this second Bank of Ireland Football Championship semi-final match. And Vinnie Murphy has gone onto the 40, by the way, being picked up by Declan Darcy. So here it is, the first ever championship meeting of Leitrim and Dublin. Straight away, there's a free kick to Leitrim. Paul Kieran shaping up like he'll be the one to take it, having been fouled. Good deep ball in towards Colin McGlynn. Dermot Deasy happily recovered from the injury that forced him out of the Leinster final. Keith Barr. Jack Sheedy. Jersey was tugged momentarily. Gets away from Paul Kieran. Showing great pace. Nicely forward towards Desi Farrell. Farrell turning, looking. But that's the first wide of the match. It was a chance for this versatile sportsman. He's also a very good hurler and hockey player.
I suppose the changes that Dublin have made have been due to the circumstances of the Leinster final. Jack Sheedy really hasn't been a success in the forward line, and bringing him out to midfield is probably the best place for him, where he can run more with the ball.
It's probably his best position. Now Keith Barr, what kind of influence will he be exerting today? And that's where George Dugdale will have a very important role. Jerry Flanagan taking this ball forward for Leitrim. Huge roar from the Leitrim following, cut out here, however, by Paul Clark. Providing the ammunition inside towards McGalvin. Ball one. Donoghue taking it away for the Connacht champions. Held back there.
That was great play by Seamus Quinn there. He dived in very bravely to win that breaking ball.
Dermot Deasy struggling to hold on to it. Challenged by Colin McGlynn. Toe poked away by Paddy Moore towards Brian Steins in midfield. Now it's Niall Guyden. To get away from Noel Moore. Inside to Vinnie Murphy. He's got a man outside him. Pat Gilroy going for the score himself, Vinnie. And just to the left. And Dublin with a second wide from 2 attacks. They're the happier. Leitrim were expecting an avalanche of early attacks to come from Dublin. We're hoping to profit with better shooting than that. Martin McHugh's kick out. Once again, it's McDeegan now, the left half back, chased by Mickey Quinn. Deegan holding it up nicely for Jack Sheedy to get onto, and finishing is not the strongest part of his game, and from 3 attacks, Dublin have looked the more nervous.
Dublin would really love to bury Leitrim in the first 10 minutes with an avalanche of scores, and they've missed 3 very good chances, so I suppose from Leitrim point of view it's been quite a good start.
Leitrim now will have to try and win a bit more ball as it's broken down in midfield, and once again it's a Dublin player, Keith Barr, responding quickly into McGalvin, and that's blocked down very well there by Seamus Quinn. 45 is the outcome. No relation of the more illustrious bearer of the Quinn surname in the team, Mickey Quinn.
Good ball in there to Mick Galvin, and Seamus Quinn now a very agile, very good full back, makes a great dive and block.
He'll be gaining in confidence, still an under-21. Well, Leitrim know all about conceding frees from distances of 45 metres or inside to a player of Charlie Redmond. Out of Dublin's tally of 3 goals and 49 points so far, Charlie's got a whopping half of that, 320. Going around the corner in familiar fashion. This to try and kick Dublin in front for the first time. A 45 from Charlie Redmond, breaking the deadlock. And that after 4 minutes. Well, they'll be a bit happier up there now.
I'd say if that that ball had to be on the Dublin side, John O'Leary would have stopped it going over the bar. That's one of the advantages that he has over Martin McHugh. Martin McHugh is quite small, and that ball would have been caught by a bigger goalkeeper.
This time across between Paul Kieran and Jack Sheedy, who seemed to nudge the Leitrim player, who recovers well. A chance to launch Leitrim's first attack in earnest. Dermot Deasy again cutting it out. Colin McGlynn fouling him. Dublin get the free out. John O'Leary, the team captain from O'Dwyer's in Balbriggan, playing in his 59th championship match today. Aimed towards Vinnie Murphy, who runs on. Jerry Flanagan going back to recover, trying to link up here with Fergal Reynolds, who's switched corners. Joe Honeyman. Now Seamus Quinn going to wrestle his way out there, stopped by Desi Farrell. Nice ball inside to Darcy. He's been such an accomplished centre-half back all season. Dublin born, of course, and it's now Guyden, and now Dublin hunting in packs, leading by just a point. Doing as we expected, to leave a firm imprint early on in this match. Desi Farrell kicking in hopefully. Martin McHugh will have to come out and attack this one, and instead it was Mick Galvin who was coming in. He got the last touch, it seems.
Now the Leitrim backs there played themselves into trouble, and Declan Darcy got the mother and father of a shoulder from Charlie Redmond. Martin McHugh probably should have came to meet that ball a lot earlier, and Mick Galvin, if he had to be a little quicker, would have got in the net.
Brian Steins jumping with Pat Donoghue. As Colm anticipated before the match, Donoghue has been given the task of marking Brian Steins. Quickly downfield towards Liam Conlon. First time he's on the ball. He's got a lot of pace. He's one of those players from Leitrim who's played here before in Garden representative matches. Nicely down to Noel Moran. Chance of a score, and Leitrim have scored, and they're level. What a great run that by Noel Moran. And to judge by the reaction of the fans, you'd swear they'd won the match. Only 6.5 minutes gone. Good overlapping run by Moran.
You'd never guess that Leitrim are after scoring by the noise here. A brilliant overlapping run by Noel Moran. And I think probably the first point that a Leitrim player has ever scored in a championship match in Croke Park. So Noel Moran has made his own bit of history.
Absolutely.
Jerry Flanagan trying to ensure that Pat Gilroy doesn't get a run for these kickouts from Dublin.
Instead, the run is made by Brian Steins. Went unchallenged as well. Now to Jack Sheedy. They've been enjoying dominance so far. Straight at Jerry Flanagan, however. Poor distribution. And a chance now for Jerry to set something up. Aided and abetted by the point scorer, Noel Moran. Acknowledging his mistake. Plays with Alan Gales in Drumshambo.
Jerry Flanagan should be getting rid of that ball a bit quicker, not trying to charge out with it.
He's gone back in his general direction again. And the taller Pat Gilroy making some headway. Supported by Desi Farrell, who's come very deep, leaving some gaps inside. Nicely in towards Charlie Redmond, contained it well. McGalvin's run ahead of him. It's on towards Galvin, scoring chance. And straight at the goalkeeper. Good positioning by Martin McHugh. But Galvin will appreciate that he could have buried it. That's a good save, but it was straight at him.
Well, Dublin could have got a goal there, and Dublin or Leitrim now are surviving just by the skin of their teeth. Mick Galvin getting in and Martin McHugh doing well, but shouldn't have put his clearance back out into the Cusack stand.
So Charlie Redmond, Dublin's only scorer so far from a 45. Is it curling sufficiently? Going towards the right. Kept in play by Pat Gilroy. Brian Steins in there, denied by Declan Darcy. And it's young Seamus Quinn emerging with the ball. Belting it down towards Liam Conlon. Kieran Walsh is marking him this afternoon. Kieran fouls. Driven in very quickly. Nice ball. Rooney. And Leitrim are in front. Aidan Rooney, the point scorer from Glencar, Munner Hamilton. Leitrim lead only 9 minutes into the first half. And how they've arrived. Kieran Walsh having his name taken. Kieran, one of the stars for Dublin in the championship so far.
Well, Dublin have had 2 goal chances and about 6 points, and they have only 1 point. Leitrim with 2 chances and 2 points. Lovely play by the Leitrim forwards to make room for Aidan Rooney, and a great point from play.
The confidence will be high, but the challenge coming from Dublin. Vinnie Murphy picking up this run by Jack Sheedy. Murphy's there in assistance. Here he is, steaming in. Great shoulder by Seamus Quinn. Jerry Flanagan trying to knock it out. Supported here by Fergal Reynolds. Out it comes towards Paul Kieran for Leitrim. And in front of the goal there was a little bit of shenanigans going on. It's all stopped now, thankfully. And Paul Kieran has won the free.
Brilliantly timed shoulder by Seamus Quinn, because again it looked like another goal chance.
Bad ball played into space, nobody there but Brian Steins. Now Paddy Moran. Bit of work for Keith Barr to do. And between Barr and Gilroy they fumble, and that's enough to let Conlon in, who is then taken to ground by Jack Sheedy. And Jack Sheedy has been called across by Tommy Suger, who's laying down the law early on. So 2 names recorded so far. Well, Declan Darcy's come up to take this one. He's kicked some priceless points in the Connacht Championship to rescue Leitrim on a couple of occasions. This is well within his range. Breeze just about supporting him, and he's got it! And Leitrim lead by 2 points. The Ahawullen man from one of the smallest parishes in Leitrim, and they've got 3 players on this Leitrim team, and they're dancing for joy down at the canal end, and that's the reason why. 3 points to 1. What a kick! Well, there were those who were worried that the occasion might get to them and nerves might be a major factor. Instead, the pressure is more on the Dubs, if anything, because they're expected to win this. Paul Clark. And it's once again the fullback, Seamus Quinn. And the mighty Quinn from Gert Lettra picking up Pádraig Kenny. Again, the ball delivered deep in there. Well watched the whole time by Kieran Walsh. Brian Steins. Back it goes to Paul Clark. Dublin rocked just a little by the succession of scores by Leitrim, who've been deadly accurate in every one of their attacks. Noel Moran. And the referee has whistled across there. This time the referee pointing the finger there at Joe Honeyman. Dublin get the free kick. Desi being marked by Fergal Reynolds. Charlie Redmond will be the hitter just outside the 45-metre line. Just a gentle breeze here at Croke Park today, and it's blowing in towards the Nally stand corner. The jeering from the Leitrim fans just to try and unsettle Charlie. He's been through all of this so many times before. One of the best in the business. And just as we say it, he puts it to the left. And that's Dublin's 5th wide. Leitrim without a wide so far, and they lead by 3 points to 1. John O'Mahony, who of course took this side straight through to the All-Ireland semi-final, following his great success with Mayo back in 1989, getting them through to the final, one of the best finals ever. Nicely down by Pat Donoghue. Dublin players there in numbers. Kieran Walsh picking out Mick Deegan. Challenged late by Mickey Quinn, who really didn't get in a decent tackle on him. And it's with Vinnie Murphy. Murphy trying to toy with Declan Darcy, angling for the shot, trying to bridge the gap, and he's done so, and this is the point in it. Vinnie Murphy's so much better when he's playing in a central position, trying to rally the troops now. was always on that he'd play somewhere around the 40.
Great point by Vinnie Murphy there, and a great ball played up right along the line by Mick Deegan from his half-back position as well.
Pat Donoghue jumping with Brian Steins. Again, broken ball, this time picked up by the other Leitrim midfielder, Paul Kieran, whipped away by Paul Clark. Comes off the legs of Declan Darcy, and Paul Kieran's waiting for it. Things going well for Leitrim just now. Needed to get rid of the ball quickly. Pat Donoghue. Blocked down brilliantly by Pat Gilroy. Brian Steins in smartly. And that's going to be a free to Dublin. Keith Barr taking it. Comes off Pat Donoghue. Reaches now guided to Jack Sheedy. Nobody marking him. Chance of the equaliser. Into Charlie Redmond. Again Charlie. Does he overhold? Back as far as Desi Farrell. Back to Charlie Redmond again. And it's a goal! Dublin sweep into the lead. Delighted fans on Hill 16. Charlie very definitely the goal king. His 4th goal of the championship. First this afternoon, and Dublin lead by 2.
Well, Jack Sheedy originally shooting for a point, dropped short. Charlie under a lot of pressure sort of throws the ball out. Desi Farrell gets it back in, and when Charlie gets it there, he really sticks it in the corner. That goal, of course, could have came about 5 minutes earlier. Dublin had plenty of goal chances.
Mickey Quinn down to Colin McGlynn. Looking for an instant riposte now, Leitrim. Corey Kenny just ahead of him. McGlynn kicking. And the reaction on Hill 16 says it all. Leitrim's first wide of this match. Kickout's taken very quickly. McDeegan now popping up on the right-hand side. Leitrim just needing to keep their shape in these anxious moments now. Niall Guyden. Back it goes to Jack Sheedy again. Great burst of energy from midfield. And this time the referee whistles, says you take too many steps. "17 minutes gone of the first half, and a very open game of football." Declan Darcy down towards Colin McGlynn, fisted away by Dermot Deasy. Paul Clark. A follow-up there by Pat Donoghue. Liam Conlon just ahead of him. Just trying to see what's inside. A good run by Colin McGlynn inside. And Aidan Rooney was the last one to touch it, but there was a jersey being tugged back and it wouldn't have counted. McGlynn left that one for the number 13.
The ball played right across, a good ball, but fouling inside by Colin McGlynn, and referee quite right in giving a free out.
Mickey Quinn has now been moved into midfield in a switch with Paul Kieran. Desi Farrell showing nice footwork on the ground, locating Pat Gilroy, and Dublin get the free in.
It looked very much like Pat Gilroy picked it off the ground. Leitrim making that change, bringing Mickey Quinn out. Jack Sheedy had been getting a lot of ball there and running at the Leitrim defence, so Mickey Quinn will want to lie back and defend.
So some defending for Leitrim to do from this free kick now by Charlie Redmond. Dublin leading by 2 points. And again, Charlie struggling to find the range, but Vinnie Murphy keeps it in play and fists the point. His second point of the match. Well, he's certainly very happy with himself. Dublin leading by double scores.
Fairly obvious Vinnie Murphy doesn't need any motivation today, because he probably knows Dublin win, and he puts in a good performance, he'll be on from the start for the final.
Got Donoghue trying to gain parity in there with Brian Steins. That'll be a throw ball. Tony Sugro opting to throw it between Jack Sheedy there and Paul Kieran. Comes back to Pat Donoghue. Rolled outside towards Aidan Rooney. Can't contain it. Instead it's Noel Moran got that first point for Leitrim in this match. Now Corey Kenny trying to be more of a factor on the half-forward line. Lovely skill. Great run this. But it doesn't quite curl sufficiently. very promising build-up and some debate in there. Carrick not entirely happy. Paul Kieran, very fine fetch, lovely catch, holding it up nicely, spotting the run by Colin McGlynn out here, making an angle for himself, going by well, skipping past Kieran Walsh, inside nicely, taken back, there's a goal here, and it's stopped by Dermot Deasy, comes back to Liam Conlon, and that's wide. There was a goal there for the taking, just a moment earlier.
Colin McGlynn does very well, and George Dugdale does the right thing, which is half a yard behind him, but Colin McGlynn a little bit slow in getting in his shot, and then, well, Liam Conlon should have punched it over the bar.
All of a sudden now Leitrim have 3 wides to go with the 3 points that they've scored as well. Paul Clark has picked up a thumb injury. Good deep ball from John O'Leary, gathered by Jerry Flanagan, trying to make some headway. Leitrim get the free kick. Towards Colin McGlynn. McGlynn against Kieran Walsh. Liam Conlon effectively has been marked by Dermot Deasy. Here's McGlynn. Just sold it a bit short there to George Dugdale. And now it comes as far as Jack Sheedy. Kicked into space, Declan Darcy going across. Very athletic type of wing-back and centre-half back. Jerry Flanagan. Well, he ran straight in to Jack Sheedy. Took too many steps into the bargain, and it's going to be a Dublin free kick.
Well, that's been coming to Jerry Flanagan now. He's had 3 or 4 balls and charged out with them, and Declan Darcy does very well. He should have let that ball off there to Pádraig Kenny or some of the other Leitrim players running inside. There's no need to take on his man like that.
Keith Barr, great dead ball kicker inside towards Woody Murphy. Gathered inside, however, by Seamus Quinn again. Taking almost everything in there. George Dugdale now, ostensibly playing on the 40. Perhaps if he starts to wander, the idea is to take Keith Barr out of position as much as possible. Brian Stein in towards Vinnie Murphy, lovely catch. Declan Darcy finding Vinnie very difficult to contain this afternoon. Player who might well have played for Dublin. His father Frank, of course, is part of the backroom team, had been training the Dublin-based Leitrim players. A mix of colours and a mix of emotions there. Well within Charlie Redmond's range, this kick. Dublin who lead by 3 points. He's missed a couple so far, but he gets this one, and that's a goal and 2 points now for Charlie Redmond. And is this the stage in the game where Dublin assume control?
Leitrim had a good 5-minute spell there and only got 3 wides for it, so I suppose if they had to be able to get a few points, but Dublin are beginning to get on top in a lot of positions around the field, and I suppose the most worrying thing from a Leitrim point of view is the fact that Vinnie Murphy is having the better of Declan Darcy at centre-half forward there.
Here is Vinnie once again, roaming around the field, and Declan likes to stay back, mind the house, where he's such a good reader of the game, the ball almost seems to find him. Brian Stein's finding Pat Gilroy. Nicely forward towards Desi Farrell, yet to score in this match, had a couple of chances. Fergal Reynolds his marker, into Gilroy, started the attack. Going by Jerry Flanagan, turning it back now. And Charlie Redmond to kick. And over it goes. Well, I think the point you made earlier, that John O'Leary might well have opted to try and save that one, was another case in point there.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. Again, a good Dublin move. Gilroy gives the ball first, ends up giving the ball back out to Charlie. Again, Mark McHugh a bit small for balls like that. John O'Leary certainly would prevent a point in a circumstances like that.
Down injured here is Jack Sheedy. Jack, member of the Garda Force, now 31 years of age, still waiting for that elusive first All-Ireland medal. Dr. Pat Duggan attending to him, and Dr. Pat O'Neill, of course, the manager as well, so he's well catered for from a medical point of view. Jack's back on his feet again. This was always going to be a difficult assignment for Dublin in one respect, and that everybody expected them to win, and win quite handsomely. 10 minutes to go to half-time. That's Pat Donoghue, might have pushed initially. Mickey Quinn, back to Pádraig Kenny. Kenny trying to get inside. The referee following the play the whole time. Spotting the foul. Paul Clark certainly got a touch on him. So here's a chance for Leitrim then to close the gap somewhat. Aidan Rooney shaping up like he'd be the one to take it. A nephew of Mickey Quinn of Sligo, himself a great free taker. Mickey was disappointed when Sligo lost so heavily to Kerry in the 1975 final. And Aidan Rooney getting his second point here. First from a free. And just a goal and a point separating the sides now. And Leitrim still with plenty of hope. He's a good free taker, Aidan Rooney, and it's 1-5 to 4 points. John O'Mahony with the word of advice to him. Perhaps a switch. Noel Moran, I can tell you, switched with Jerry Flanagan on the flanks of Leitrim's half-back line. Pat Donoghue, he's enjoyed a good deal of possession. Nicely down, good ball towards George Dugdale, bounced unkindly for him, and it's Kieran Walsh reading the situation so well, fouled, held around the head. Paul Clark, free taker. Plenty of bundling in there. It's Declan Darcy who has it. Darcy, the Leitrim team captain, to Noel Moran. Colin McGlynn now, trying to sell dummies. Still McGlynn. He gave too much of that to Jack Sheedy. It reaches Vinnie Murphy, who's having trouble just holding the pass, and that'll be a Leitrim ball.
Colin McGlynn would want to make up his mind what he's going to do with these. He's going on solo runs and then getting caught with the ball.
Dermot Deasy. Now Niall Guyden. Final link force between half-back and the inside forward line. And again it's Seamus Quinn, playing his heart out. What a match he's played. Tripped over the legs of Vinnie Murphy as he was going out that time in an accidental clash, I thought. The referee has pointed to Vinnie and says, I saw it. Seamus Quinn still down on the ground. This young man is worried.
Seamus Quinn having an exceptional game for Leitrim there at full back. He's clearing every ball that goes in and having much the better of things with himself and Mick Galvin. I think Vinny a bit lucky not to get booked for that slightly late challenge there.
And the selectors here just having a quick chat. Jim Brogan and Pat O'Neill. We also got a good glimpse there of Fran Ryder. Declan Darcy driven into the inside forward line. Fisted away, but only as far as Colin McGlynn. Now Aidan Rooney. Rooney against Paddy Moran. Mickey Quinn kicking. How he'd love to score here in Croke Park. He's played here in the Compromise Rules series some years ago. Or should that have been the Uncompromised Rules? John O'Leary, of course, a link with the last Dublin team to win an All-Ireland back in 1983. Pat Gilroy. Paul Clark fisting it forward to Brian Steins. Steins watching Clark, motoring ahead still. led Dublin to minor All-Ireland success in 1984, and that one's gone outside, and that's a 9th wide. Correction, it's a 6th wide for Dublin, just in the first half so far. 29 minutes gone. A run by Mickey Quinn. And he missed one just a few minutes ago, and I'm sure he wants to make up for it. Back to Pat Donoghue. Inside towards George Dugdale. Pushed by Kieran Walsh. Leitrim get the free kick. George Dugdale, very much the fulcrum of the Leitrim team, vice-captain as well. This was the incident.
George Dugdale playing in at full forward now, and I think he twists his ankle there. Kieran Walsh coming up out behind him, but free in for Leitrim, but I think it's very obviously he's twisted his ankle. Colin McLean playing at centre half forward for Leitrim, and Dermot Deasy has gone to cornerback for Dublin, right cornerback, and he's marking Liam Conlon, and Kieran Walsh playing at full-back now on George Dugdale.
Just looking at that last incident, which has resulted in a free kick to Leitrim, I didn't see very much contact there, I must say.
No, it's probably a harsh decision. I suppose if a forward is coming out like that and a back very tight on him, the referee is inclined to think that the back must be given a bit of a push.
Aidan Rooney just inside the last 5 minutes of the first half. It spills out and it's belted clear by Paddy Moran. Back to Pat Donoghue. Seen a lot of the action. Pádraig Kenny's come more and more into it as the half has progressed. Declan Darcy's just to his left-hand side. He's located him. Darcy inside the 45-metre line. Dermot Deasy coming out. There was a double hop, and it's going to be a free. Dublin having to restructure their back line, clearly upset by the Leitrim attackers who are switching around, making life a bit awkward. Charlie Redmond, nice ball inside to Desi Farrell. And he's got support there. Back to Mick Galvin, the dummy. High up into the air. Vinnie Murphy coming to try and take. Fisted down, but only as far as Charlie Redmond, denied brilliantly. And once again, it's Seamus Quinn who gets across to deny a near certain goal for Dublin. Niall Guyden back to Desi Farrell. And that's gone over the bar. Desi Farrell's first point. Well, Leitrim are living very dangerously indeed. Dublin lead by 5 points, but there was another goal chance there for Charlie. What a match this young player is playing.
Charlie Redmond following in very fast, and on the break-off, Vinnie Murphy gets in. Charlie was claiming a penalty here because Seamus Quinn blocks the ball with his foot, and certainly it should have been a penalty because that's illegal. Should have been a penalty there to Dublin.
So Leitrim get a let off. They also get a free kick themselves, 65 metres out from the Dublin goal. Aidan Rooney. Pádraig Kenny. Held up well over there. Back again towards Kenny from Jerry Flanagan, from Noel Boran. Free kick to Leitrim. Paul Clark, the last player to pick himself off the ground.
There's a fairly marked contrast in the styles that both teams are adopting. Dublin letting every ball long and letting the forwards fight for them. Leitrim trying to play the ball in much more slowly and running into a lot of trouble because the Dublin team have a chance to funnel back.
So Paul Kieran, the free taker, in front of an attendance of 52,600. And he's found the range. Nicely taken free. Once again an opportunity to celebrate for the Connacht champions. They've got 5 points to Dublin's 1-6. I get the feeling that Leitrim will be quite happy enough to be still in there, coming close to half-time. Vinnie Murphy, certainly one of those causing problems. Brian Steins. Pat Donoghue matched the run, back to Vinnie Murphy again. Inside towards Mick Galvin. And this time it's a free kick to Dublin. A foul by Seamus Quinn. It's taken very quickly in as far as Pat Gilroy. It's one they could have done with. he hasn't scored so far. Niall Guyton has yet to score. Jack Sheedy, Mick Galvin and Brian Steins all yet to get a first point.
I think maybe a bit of justice there. I think Seamus Quinn was fairly harshly penalised after winning that ball. Jack Sheedy now at right half forward for Dublin, and Pat Gilroy has gone to midfield.
Pat Donoghue against Brian Steins. Donoghue fielding brilliantly. Great catch to Mickey Quinn. Well, that was a wonderful catch by Pat Donoghue, who's had some glorious moments during this first half. Jerry Flanagan now back on this left-hand side once again. Pádraig Kenny. Shouldered. Well, the linesman on this near side has the flag up. Willie O'Mahony from Limerick. And Pádraig having a quick look at him. His legs were certainly out. Whether the whole of the ball was or not, that's another matter.
A stupid ball there anyway, putting Pádraig Kenny in trouble. No room for moving.
Noel Moran misjudges. It reaches Charlie Redmond. Seamus Quinn coming out. Vinnie Murphy jumping, catching securely, needing support, getting it from Desi Farrell, a man loose outside him. Mick Galvin, chance of his first point. And yes, just inside the right-hand post. And Mick Galvin gets off the mark. And it's 1-7 to 5 points.
The Dublin forwards are in trouble releasing the ball very quickly, and if Mick Galvin had to look across, I think Niall Guyton was completely loose in front of the goal. Leitrim lucky to get away with just a point there.
Match now into injury time. Mickey Quinn. Nicely taken down. Pádraig Kenny. Back forward towards George Dugdale. Paul Kieran picks up. Drop deep. Liam Conlon watching it. So too John O'Leary. Dermot Deasy. Now Pádraig Moran taking it out. Had a few worrying moments against Meath. Played well today. McGalvin inside to Niall Guyton. And this is the free-moving Dublin attack that we've all come to admire over the last few years. McDeegan into Galvin. And that's buried! And that's a brilliant goal! That was a wonderful score. I think we were saying he hadn't scored. In the last two attacks, he's got a goal and a point. And Galvin is back with a bang. What a time to get a goal like that.
Well, again, the contrast in style there. Paddy Moran balloons the ball 60 yards up. Mick Galvin gets it, gives it back. McDeegan following in, and I think he's after getting goal of the year.
It certainly was a wonderful goal, and Tommy Sugar says that's or we'll take a break. Well, what a time to get a goal. Psychologically so important for Dublin, so shattering for Leitrim. Have they the resolve on the players to come back? Half-time score here reads Dublin 2 goals and 7 points, Leitrim 5 points. And as they go off at half-time, George Dugdale is having to be carried off.
Well, thank you very much, Pat O'Neill. What's your thoughts at half-time? That was a great goal.
Yeah, well, it's a good score before half-time. We're going in to get ready now for the second half.
Are you pleased with your first half performance, Pat?
Yes and no.
Are you going to make any changes?
We'll think about it with the selectors inside.
Well, that's the views of Pat O'Neill briefly there as Dublin head to the dressing room at half-time. Well, we were afraid that the start might actually go, as you see George Dugdale being carried off there. You remember he got an ankle injury during that first half. Obviously, it was worse than we thought, and it looks unlikely now we're going to see George Dugdale in the second half. I was just going to say we were afraid that Leitrim might get off to a bad start in this match, that things might go against them in the early period. I have to put it to my panel, Martin McHugh and Anthony Davis, that in actual fact it was a bad finish to the first half, Martin, they got.
Terrible time to concede a goal, and it's going to be very hard for them to come back the second half. The interesting thing about it is that George Dugdale was actually down injured for about a minute before it, and McDeegan got up the field to make the extra player for the goal, you know, but it's a terrible finish.
It's been a good free-flowing first half though, Anthony.
It has, yeah, it's been some very good football. At times it looked like a five-a-side training session. It was very free and open, and you could see that it's going to be a high-scoring game. But at times the Leitrim backs were caught napping with quick frees, and the breaks, they weren't getting the breaks around midfield. Very important for them to tighten up there.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll talk more about what we've seen so far in the first half. And he, of course, is one of the young boys and girls here in the what has now become traditional mini 7 skills here at half-time in the senior game at Croke Park. This is the All-Ireland semi-finals and finals, part of the INTO project to encourage young people into the games of Gaelic football and, of course, hurling. Well, Dublin have had one success this weekend already. I can tell you in the Masters football semi-finals, they beat Tyrone by 3-6 to 2-6, while Mayo beat Longford by 1-6 to 3 points. And so then it'll be Mayo and Dublin in the Masters final, and that takes place in Ennis the weekend of the Under-21 football final, which of course is the weekend after, is next weekend in actual fact. So that's something to look forward to there. Okay, back to our panel then. We have, as I said, Martin McHugh and Anthony Davis with us. The goal just before half-time, any goal like that is a killer blow to a team. Can Leitrim recover themselves, Martin?
Yeah, well, the first 5 minutes of the second half will tell the tale. They're going to have to get scores early on. In fact, only one of the Leitrim forwards have scored from play, so they still have that same problem that they had maybe through the Connacht Championship. So it's a worry for them. Noel Moore in the right half back got a point from play as well.
Okay, let's take a look at Dublin's first goal coming up here. And this was one, there was something sort of fortuitous about this, it has to be said.
Well, I thought that maybe Charlie Redmond overcarried the ball in the first place, and I think then when Desi Farrell got the ball, I think he might have thrown it.
Yeah, we might go back and have a look at that again, Marty, because the play began just a little bit before that, and take an opportunity to see exactly what happened, because there's an argument that perhaps Charlie fouled the ball first on his way in.
Yeah, he seemed to overcarry the ball. The Leitrim defence seemed to tackle him very well, and I mean that was good tackling really by the defender. And he seemed to, if you count the steps, he too many steps. And then when Desi got the ball here, if you just watch, when he turns around here and plays it across, I think it's a throw really. It's a throw and it should have been disallowed. But Dublin would argue then that they had a penalty decision turned down later
Yes,
on.
absolutely. In actual fact, if there was a question mark over that one, Dublin could have scored 3 or 4 goals during this first half.
They could have had more goals, you know what I mean? It was unfortunate the way that came, and maybe it could have been a free out. But the goals is what Leitrim didn't want to concede coming up here, and goals is what's going to beat a team like that coming up for the first time.
Tony, let's take a look at the second goal, because this may yet turn out to be the killer blow for Leitrim in this All-Ireland semi-final. But having said that, it was a cracking goal by
yeah, it was a very, very good goal. Dublin have punished Leitrim for every indiscretion they made in the game. I think McDeegan came up going back to support here, and back in. That was very well taken, but as you can see, the Leitrim backs are ball watching again. There was 2 men actually inside. Any of them could have taken it. They'll have to be much tighter in the second half. And they're going to find it very difficult now. Very, very difficult.
What would you say at this point is the basic difference between Dublin and Leitrim?
Well, Dublin are punishing Leitrim for every mistake they make. And as well as that, when Leitrim get up to the midfield and the half-forward line, they're overplaying the ball. They should let it in quicker into their full forward line. They have 2 scoring forwards inside and not giving them the ball, whereas Dublin are scoring every time they go forward, you know, so they'll have to have a higher scoring rate for percentage of attacks, and they're not doing that.
Also, Martin, I suppose another thing that has to be taken into account that's also obvious, maybe in some of the fumbling that's going on, maybe in some of the overcarrying, is just our lack of experience at this level of football.
I think that is probably the main reason. They're one in good possession, then giving it away. And as well as that, the forwards are walking out to their backs of the ball, and John O'Leary has caught them with 2 or 3 kickouts, short kickouts, and that's someone that, you know, that's probably the experience of playing at Croke Park. But they're going to, I mean, as I said, the first 5 minutes of the second half will tell the tale for Leitrim, you know, and hopefully they can get a couple of scores on the board.
12 months ago, of course, the Connacht champions took quite a heavy beating in this game. Actually, Martin, just before that, we have Martin Morrissey with some latest news.
John O'Mahony, just your thoughts at half-time.
Well, that goal before half-time was a bit of a sucker punch, but we're not out of it yet.
George Dugdale, who are you replacing him with?
Barney Breen is in centre forward.
Okay, that's the latest news. John O'Mahony telling us what's happening there. Tommy Sugro is just about getting ready to start the second half. So let's go back again to our commentary team of Colin O'Rourke and Ger Canning.
We're at the start of the second half. It's Dublin 2 goals and 7 points. Leitrim 5 points. 13 points to 5. Barney Breen getting his chance then to come in on the 40. And wonderful, colourful headwear. So the second half is underway here in this Bank of Ireland Championship semi-final. Who'll face down in 4 weeks' time. Popular fancy, of course, is very definitely Dublin. But Donoghue had such a good first half. Gathered here by Dermot Deasy. Paul Clark. Jack Sheedy has started the second half at right half forward. Good run forward by Brian Steins. Desi Farrell having some work to do. Wasn't the greatest of passes down there, but it's won by Brian Steins. Steins trying to go by Johnnyman, and that's gone over the bar. Good start to the second half by the Dubs. Brian Steins picking up his first point.
Well, this is where Brian Steins is always very dangerous, always well able to get forward and comes in again, does the sensible thing, punches the ball over the bar.
So Leitrim, having made one change already, may well be about to make another one. Jason Ward is being prepared across on the far side as we watch Colin McGlynn. Leitrim need quick response. McGlynn provides it. So that's 3 points now for Leitrim from play out of their tally of 6, and it's 286 points.
Colin McGlynn has been finding it easy to get possession, and I say all of Leitrim would wish that he'd just do that, get the ball, take on his man and have a shot at goal when he's going straight, rather than messing about with it and giving passes which have been intercepted.
Barney Breen he's known as, rather than Brian, from Sean O'Heslin's, which is Ballinamore. Free kick to Dublin. Pat Gilroy from St Vincent's down towards Mick Galvin, finished so prominently. He's lost the left boot, but ball transferred inside towards Keith Barr. They really were converging on him, and strong man that he is, he looks to be in a bit of agony in there. They really converged on the Dublin number 6. Mickey Quinn still on the ground. He really is a tough, hard, competitive figure, the number 6.
And Barney Breen caught a little bit napping, and Keith Barr gets down the field, and he'd gone down by the time Mickey Quinn came over him, so very nasty knock for Keith Barr.
But happily he's able to continue trotting back up to mark Barney Breen. All of which gives the free to Charlie Redmond. We've seen plenty of proof in the Leinster Championship this year that you can't afford to concede frees from about 40 metres out with Charlie around. And that's now a goal and 4 points for Charlie Redmond out of Dublin's tally of 2-9. So as usual, he's contributing about 50% of their scores. Pat Donoghue having the better of that duel with Brian Steins. Mickey Quinn leaving it to Vinnie Murphy. Constantly a source of concern for the Leitrim half-backs. Desi Farrell getting the better of Joe Honeyman. Back to Brian Steins. Out to Paul Clark. Ambitiously transferred across towards Keith Barr. In spite of the knocks, he's prepared to come forward at every opportunity to Mick Galvin. Should be the goalkeepers. Martin McHugh playing in his 5th championship match. Right back to Desi Farrell once again. So the pressure remaining on the Leitrim backs. Enterprising ball to Pat Gilroy from Keith Barr. Nicely into Charlie Redmond. And Redmond punishes that slack clearance by the Leitrim goalkeeper in emphatic fashion. Charlie very much the darling of the hill.
Well, a bad clearance there by Martin McHugh, and again Dublin are punishing now Leitrim for every mistake that they made. Charlie Redmond makes it look very easy, quite an awkward angle, but a great point from play.
Pat Donoghue touches down the broken ball, and it's picked up by Mickey Quinn, now 34 years of age. An awful pity we didn't see Mickey Quinn play here in the Championship in Croke Park perhaps 4 or 5 years ago. He was really at his very best. Pat Donoghue against Brian Steins, continuing to go forward. Back to Liam Conlon. Paul Kieran in there, but it's Dermot Deasy, so assured at full back. Back to McDeegan, and now Paul Clark. Again, Vinnie Murphy breaking that one down. Noel Moran thought about a pass back to Seamus Quinn. He's got support with Jerry Flanagan outside. Turning inside to round Charlie Redmond. Finding Barney Breen. First chance to shine in this match. Good ball through the centre towards Paul Kieran. Kieran now playing, it seems, at full forward. McDeegan operating at a right half back. Vinnie Murphy just about playing anywhere, taking Declan Darcy out of position and reducing the effectiveness of the Leitrim captain. George Dugdale unable to continue for the second half. He had that ankle injury from the first. O'Mahony there alongside one of his selectors. It's Joe Reynolds, along with Ollie Honeyman, of course. The three wise men of Leitrim football. It goes straight back to the Dubs. Many Leitrim people in the background there up on the new Cusack stand, still taking wonderful shape. Broken again by Vinnie Murphy, and this time the Leitrim players around Declan Darcy are aware of that. Mickey Quinn through the centre towards Colin McGlynn, picked up by Paddy Moran with some difficulty, tripped. And then Mick Deegan nips in, wins that one, out to Brian Steins. It's a clip in the face for his troubles. Nicely across there. And once again, Mick Galvin trying to forage, trying to get out ahead of the full-back this time, trying to take him out of the area of the field where he is so effective in front of his own posts. And that was Charlie Redmond running in there and conceding the free kick. Pat Donoghue. Donoghue will need to look up. Colin McGlynn calling for it. This is where they need some certainty from him. He needs to release it, does so, as far as Barney Breen. And the point is on. And Barney Breen's got it. His first since coming in at the start of the second half. So 2-10 to 7 points.
Again, good work by Pat Donoghue into Colin McGlynn. Colin McGlynn always giving the impression he could do an awful lot more. Barney Breen getting a very good point. Leitrim are going to continue to fight, even though it does look as a contest is over, but Leitrim won't certainly lie down.
And certainly I think the Leitrim people have travelled here in huge numbers, wherever they've come from. I don't know. It's supposed to be a county with a population of 25,000, but they're supported by much more than that here at Croke Park this afternoon. I think they'll stay to the finish. Jack Sheedy tripped by Jerry Flanagan, and this time for his troubles. Referee has the notebook out, and he becomes the first Leitrim player to have the name taken.
I think that kick out from John O'Leary says a lot about the game. Dublin have just so many big players to aim all these kick outs at. The far more physical size than
huge kick by Keith Barr into Charlie Redmond, and wonderful block down by Fergal Reynolds. Comes back from Mick Galvin to Niall Guyden, and that sails over the bar, and another Dublin player gets his name on the scoreboard. The Raheny flyer there, the number 12, putting 10 points between the teams.
Well, Fergal Reynolds does very well, but it happens so often. There's always another Dublin player, always another man in the queue, and out to Niall Guyden for his first score.
Kicked out by Keith Barr there, ball touched on the ground by Brian Steins. Declan Darcy taking it quickly. Cross towards Liam Conlon, has yet to score. There's a chance to put that right. Making headway with some purpose inside to Barney Breen. Pádraig Kenny going for the goal, blocked down by Keith Barr, comes to Dermot Deasy, and the siege lifted once again, or just about, with the aid of John O'Leary. Well, Barr was perfectly positioned that time to deny Leitrim. And now it's Paddy Moran. Mick Galvin trying to make it his against Seamus Quinn, despairingly it runs outside, somewhat to Niall Guyden. Ooh, good low shot. McHugh to be down very quickly, and Leitrim showing a lot of uncertainty back there. Declan Darcy, there's a Dublin player on the ground as we watch Jerry Flanagan. Charlie Redmond picking himself up gingerly in front of the Leitrim goal. It's Mick Deegan coming forward, 45 metres out from the posts, to Niall Guyden. That point he scored has done his confidence a lot of good. In towards Vinnie Murphy, broken to himself. Taken back to Niall Guyden, beating the challenges. And there it's Joe Honeyman, brother of Ollie, who's a selector, to Mickey Quinn. Of a great sporting family. Pat Donoghue. There's another Dublin player on the deck, down at the far end of the field. Liam Conlon against Kieran Walsh. It was going too far away from goal. And ends up nearer the corner flag. Vinnie Murphy, attended to there by Dr. Pat O'Neill. Well, John O'Leary played in a 40th championship match, or 50th championship match, when he played in the All-Ireland final in 1992. Chances that it'll be a 60th championship match when he plays in the final, if things go according to plan for Dublin in 4 weeks' time. Paul Clark, tackle from behind. And Dublin just about to make a change, and Paul Bealin has just been introduced, and Leitrim also with a sub on. Jason Ward from St. Bridget's in Blanchardstown, one of the Dublin-based players, and Paul Kieran, the player who's making way for Jason Ward. And Mick Galvin has been replaced by Dublin.
Mick Galvin suffered a hand injury there a few minutes ago. I think that's the reason why he's gone off.
So Bealin in for Galvin. Charlie Redmond breaking that one down towards Brian Steins, picks the ball up himself. Appeared to be fouled as he was in the act of picking the ball up. Referee says play on. Out it comes towards Jason Ward. To Barney Breen, the two second-half substitutes for Leitrim on their first ever championship outing in Croke Park. Aidan Rooney holding up the point of the attack. Leitrim with 7 points so far. Jason Ward. That ball comes back to Noel Moran. Remember his point from play in the first half. Nicely outside to Ward again. There's a scoring chance here. And he miscues completely. Wasted possession. Well, they've had some chances. They could have a lot more than 7 points on the board.
Yes, but the Leitrim forwards are finding it very difficult to get through, and this is one chance that they did. Jason Ward taking up a good position after his kick was initially blocked, but ballooning it wide. Punch over the bar would have done quite nicely there.
Paul Clark just getting there ahead of Pádraig Kenny. Seamus Quinn winning that battle there against Paul Bealin, playing in the unaccustomed position of full forward for him. Normally we'd expect to see him play out around midfield, but Quinn has had a super match, just damaging his right leg. Declan Darcy taken by the other number 6, Keith Barr, to get away from the attentions of Barney Breen. Desi Farrell winning the race for possession with Joe Honeyman. Back to Charlie Redmond. Trying to open it up in the centre here. Paul Bealin transferred to Niall Guyden. There's a player in an overlap here. It's Jack Sheedy. Sheedy back for Guyden. Fisting. He's put it over the bar. Niall Guyden's second point. Both in the second half. And now it's 2-12 to 7 points.
Well, again, Dublin able to get scores that Leitrim are certainly not able to get today. Very quick hands, Jack Sheedy to Niall Guyden again, taking the easy option of a point. But Leitrim always getting caught at the back there. Their two cornerbacks in particular are having a lot of difficulty with Desi Farrell and Charlie Redmond.
Just a bit of adjustment to the strapping here for Declan Darcy. Maybe taking it off completely. It had been around his right knee. Tom Gannon, the last man to captain a Leitrim team in an All-Ireland semi-final back in 1927. And as I said a little earlier, it was the father of Michael O'Hare, who's here enjoying this match, who was the team trainer that year. Niall Guyden. Back to Pat Gilroy. Bealin. That's a fine kick. Right onto the top of the crossbar and over. Well, he may be staking claims for inclusion in the All-Ireland final team if this continues. Wonderful kick by Paul Bealin.
Again, the queue of players there. Ball breaks in the middle of the field. I think a lot of these hand passes from Dublin are very dubious. Great point by Paul Bealin, another player who'll be looking to get his place for the final.
In fact, of the Dublin forward line right now, only Jack Sheedy has yet to score, and there's still time. I make it about 16 minutes, or maybe just a little less still to go. Barney Breen, he was big held by Keith Barr. So Barney now having the option of kicking it from the ground, off of the hands. He used to be the free taker, of course, Barney Breen, trying to get over the outstretched hands there of Keith Barr. Good deep one inside towards Jason Ward, flicked on to John O'Leary, however, playing in his 7th All-Ireland football semi-final. Paul Clark, and the trapdoor opening just ahead of him. Clark on towards Charlie Redmond. Leitrim at 6s and 7s back there, where there was some pushing, and that's going to be a free out. Vinnie Murphy there, and Fergal Reynolds. Charlie Redmond stepping in to be the peacemaker. There hasn't really been any animosity in this particular game. There's no needle between the teams. There's a good competitive edge to it, and Leitrim want to do themselves justice, and Dublin just want to get by this test and into the final. Declan Darcy getting support from Pat Donoghue, just leaving it behind, then nipping in to trip Paul Beelan. Free taken very quickly down to Brian Steins. Not quite an exhibition finish. Still in play. Seamus Quinn, pursued by Vinnie Murphy, of vain pursuit, showing he is more than capable of living in this particular company. Charlie Redmond going back to rescue, taking it, belted down towards Pat Gilroy. Back there is the commanding figure of Declan Darcy, who's had a better second half. Jerry Flanagan. Mickey Quinn. Dublin so good at closing down Leitrim players when they come out from their own back line. So accurate passing into the forwards has been difficult. Paul Clark. This time it's Barney Breen. Scoring chance here. Nicely outside. And it's in! Colin McGlynn, the goal scorer. Leitrim's first goal in a championship match at Croke Park comes 19 minutes into the second half. And it's Colin McGlynn who scores it from Alan Gales in Drumshambo.
Well, if Leitrim could get another couple of these, certainly make a game of it. Paul Clark maybe fouled. Barney Breen does well and puts Colin McGlynn down. He does exactly the right thing, puts it low in.
So now is there another? Pat Gilroy saying enough of that, now it's our turn to do a bit more counter-attacking. Paul Beelan back towards Jack Sheedy. Belted across, but Guidon has a bit of work to do. Peels there from Noel Moran as well. Intense faces. Paddy Moran and Aidan Rooney, the two players involved here. Paddy Russell, the linesman from Tipperary. Charlie Redmond. Poor marking there to give Brian Steins the chance. Pat Donoghue was back initially minding the house, then closed him down rather late. Take it in there. And once again, Paul Beelan looking for assistance. Vinnie Murphy looking for space, but that's going to be a kick out. Referee checking on the watch. Still about a quarter of an hour remaining. Just a little under.
I think Leitrim could do worse than bring up Declan Darcy up the field, because he hasn't had one of his better games at centre back, and they need scores at this stage.
And he's got experience of playing in the forwards as well. He plays for his club there. Desi Farrell now trying to finish this attack with a score. And that creeping inside the right-hand post to the delight of everybody up there in Hill 16. And Dessie Farrell's second point. So once again, Dublin lead by double scores.
Well, I think this is the single biggest difference between the teams. The two Dublin corner forwards are after having great games. Joe Honeyman, who was brilliant in the Connacht final, has found Dessie Farrell too hot to handle. A great point off his right foot.
It's fisted on by Mickey Quinn, but nobody waiting for it there except Mick Deegan. Out towards Jack Sheedy. Oops, bundle in the back for his troubles. Referee says play on. Paul Clark has it. In towards Paul Beelan. And the falling body of Paul Beelan winning the free kick. Eddie Murphy's had a very solid match all through. Jerry Flanagan with a smile on the face still. I think having enjoyed the experience. So Charlie Redmond on the 45-metre line or thereabouts. The side leading by 2:14 to 1:7. Dropped in deep. Again, it's the fullback Seamus Quinn. Jason Ward. Keith Barr, good catch. Back to Dermot Deasy. Steady, unspectacular display by Deasy, but just as I say it, the distribution wasn't of the highest order. Noel Moran to kick this one in. Towards Colin McGlynn. Broken, but the broken play picked up by Keith Barr. Brian Steins now. Jerry Flanagan challenging. Winning it against Jack Sheedy. And Jerry Flanagan keen for the fray here. Anxious to do well. And again, poor clearance from that free. Dermot Deasy back to Brian Steins again. Aidan Rooney having to give chase. The kick into space, and there's always a Dublin forward off the mark quickly. Dessie Farrell's had a very good game, as Colin O'Rourke was saying. This time, he holds on too long. Tenacious defending by Joe Honeyman.
Yes, he was waiting for Charlie to come and take it off, and Charlie has done that on several occasions today. Looped around outside him and taken the ball off him.
Dermot Deasy. Jack Sheedy. Hasn't had the greatest of seasons so far, Jack Sheedy. Charlie Redmond. Sheedy's ahead of him. There's a great scoring chance. Just overhead, and that was enough for Noel Moran to locate Joe Honeyman. Pat Donoghue. Threaded up there towards Liam Conlon. Takes a few steps, too many, gets away with it. Corey Kenny. Ball forward towards Declan Darcy, who's popped up in the attack for once, and Paul Beelan is back there, tracking him the whole time. Injured, but Kieran Walsh has it. And Dublin are away once again. 10 minutes to go now. Looking good for the Metropolitans. Oh, that's in to Dessie Farrell, and here's the chance to finish it off. Dessie Farrell. "25 minutes now into the second half. A smile on the face, saying it all. And they now know they're in the All-Ireland final.
Well, the marking has gone a bit on the Leitrim side, and Dessie Farrell able to hold off Joe Honeyman there. Again, like all the Dublin players, has the power, solos, takes his time and sticks it in the roof of the net.
It's been a brave try by Leitrim. No point in being condescending. They were rank outsiders. They did well for long periods of the first half. The goal before half-time, really a soccer blow, as John O'Mahony was saying. But they've had to give second best during the second half. And Dublin just considering a switch across on that far side. Always a useful time to warm up a player, and the player coming in, Liam Walsh, who's 21 years of age. From the Thomas Davis Club in Cala. Kieran Walsh, I think, is the player who's making way from St Anne's. So a chance then for Liam Walsh to enjoy championship fare. With about 8 minutes left as Aidan Rooney kicks this free from outside the 45-metre line. They'll be hoping to fist it in there somehow. But Dermot Deasy has done really well, withstanding the pressure. But again, that clearance wasn't the best. And Liam Conlon has it. And straight away fouled by Liam Walsh. An opportunity really for Pat O'Neill to bring in young players like Liam Walsh and just test them out in the fairly certain knowledge that they are through to a final meeting with Down. First ever All-Ireland final between the two. Tommy Carr there away in the background in that dugout. Good kick by Aidan Rooney, his third point. 1 from play, 2 from freeze out of the tally, and it's now 3-14 to 1-8. John O'Leary just holding it up here because Dublin about to make another change, and Tommy Carr is getting his chance to come back in and restake his claim for a championship place. And Leitrim have brought on Brian Dignan, who can play at wing back. In fact, he's gone straight in to mark Tommy Carr. Well, you wonder when Tommy comes in. He's coming in place of Jack Sheedy, who was out of sorts today. And Tommy can play, of course, just about anywhere, and has. Fergal Reynolds, the player who went off for Leitrim. Good ball from Paul Beelan towards Charlie Redmond. Redmond attracting attention instantly. And this time the referee says, not overholding, it's free and instead to Dublin. Well, Tommy has played corner back, he's played, of course, in the half back line, he's played in the forwards. In your view, Colm, are there places still to be won on this Dublin team for the final?
Well, Pat O'Neill is playing a game of cat and mouse in ways, and he's trying to keep all his troops happy. Maybe the fellas who are going off won't be too happy about it, but bringing on the likes of Tommy Carr and Paul Beelan will keep them very keen, and also put a bit of pressure on the players in possession.
Charlie judging it to a T, absolute perfection, and a goal and 6 points for Charlie Redmond. Dublin, by the way, haven't been wide once in the second half. Leitrim wide just once, so fair amount of accuracy. But Dublin particularly sharp in front of goal. Desi Farrell, who got that third goal. Nicely back into Paul Beelan. It looks like going left, just about. And there's some despondent faces on the Leitrim dugout, but they've done well to get to this stage. Ollie Honeyman trying to urge them on. So just 5 minutes left. Colin McGlynn scored one of the goals here, the Leitrim goal. They've had chances. Dublin's goals, of course, coming from Charlie Redmond, from Mick Galvin just before half-time, and Desi Farrell during the second half. Pat Donoghue touching it down, but it's Brian Stein's Australian rule style picking it up. He had 5 years in that code with Melbourne, losing it to Pat Donoghue. Has played steadily all through this match. He's been outstanding at times. Jason Ward, Liam Conlon, nicely for Declan Darcy, trying to engineer another goal-scoring chance perhaps. He'd be content with a point, and he ends up getting nothing. John O'Leary varying at this time, and it's Paul Clark. They're trying to keep it away from Pat Donoghue in particular. It's caused problems in the air for them. Towards Desi Farrell, very much on his game today, very sharp. And Charlie Redmond. It's been talk that he's thinking about finishing his career at the top. He's still got an awful lot to contribute. Likewise, Vinnie Murphy. That's broken down for Jason Ward to come on to. Or brother, it's Brian Dignan. Here's Colin McGlynn. He's pushing Dermot Deasy out of his way. The outside of the boot. Attempt to be fanciful, but in the end it is Paddy Moran. Down to Tommy Carr. Chance for him to get in possession. Big roar from the hill as he does so. Down to Paul Clark. Everything has been saluted at this stage by joyous Dublin fans. Maybe not that last pass. Colin, a word about Leitrim today. Part of a learning process, a very small county, tiny population, and yet they've done well to get this far.
Well, the achievement of winning the Connacht Championship for a county like that has been fantastic, and I suppose the difference between the standard of football that they have been used to and what is in Leinster is fairly reflected here. The game is faster, the players are stronger, probably fitter as well, and without being condescending to Connacht football, there is a bit of a gulf there, and it's very evident here today. But Leitrim have fought hard, and they certainly haven't given up. Some teams from Connacht in the past have come to Croke Park and the players have dropped their heads and stopped trying, but you can't say that about Leitrim.
Yeah, they never died, that's for sure. Niall Guyden. Partly blocked that time by Brian Dignan. Now Jerry Flanagan. When they reflect in the dark days of winter, they'll be thinking back, Leitrim, of that marvellous win in the Connacht Championship, beating Roscommon, Galway, Mayo. What a win that was. And then coming here for the very first time. No mean achievement. Into Colin McGlynn again. Barney Breenis to his right, a support to his left as well. He was going for glory. It's John O'Leary.
Certainly Colin McGlynn could have done a good bit more with the possession he got today. There's several times he could have put Leitrim players in for scores and just held on too long.
So another promising build-up here. Once again, it's Brian Dignan. And the player who was fouled was Jason Ward. So Leitrim just considering what they're going to do with this. Aidan Rooney, the free taker. Leitrim with a goal and 8 points on the board so far, as Noel Moran, I think that is, coming to the match with a knee injury. He's taking his point. The fourth point for Aidan Rooney. 3 of them from frees. They were reflecting in Leitrim during the week that if they got 12 points, they'd be quite happy. They've got that, 1 goal and 9 points. He doesn't look too pleased. Long road back, isn't it? It's all over. And Dublin are emphatic winners against gallant champions from the West. It'll be Dublin versus Down in 4 weeks' time. What a final we're looking forward to there. Charlie Redmond today contributed a goal and 6 points. His goal 15 minutes into the first half. The killer blow, I suppose, for Leitrim was the goal by Mick Galvin. 2 minutes into injury time in that half. And then Desi Farrell, with 10 minutes to go, fairly wrapped it up. A super goal. It's a match we've enjoyed. There have been some very good displays, and Dublin go through. And confirmation then of the full-time score. Dublin 3 goals and 15 points. Leitrim 1 goal and 9.
So that's the situation then. Dublin very impressively enter the All-Ireland final and a meeting with Down, and that ambition of the Dubs to take the All-Ireland. They've been close over the last few years. It's eluded them. Well, they're back again on the big day, on the 3rd Sunday in September. We'll be talking about what we've seen here in this semi-final with our panel. That's after this commercial break. Welcome back again. So that's the situation then at Croke Park in the afternoon, aftermath of this afternoon's All-Ireland semi-final between Dublin and Leitrim. The Dublin supporters cheering and happy as their side are into the All-Ireland final. You can see the scenes of joy there. Remember 12 months ago, the Dubs lost out in that cracking semi-final against Derry. Bitter disappointment for Dublin supporters and for the team on that occasion. Well, they've made up for it this year, but the people of Dublin will tell you that they won't really feel they've made up for it until Sam Maguire is back in the capital again. So they're into the All-Ireland final against Down, and in the minor match, it's Galway through to the final. They'll take on Kerry. That's after their 112 to 12-point win over Dublin in the first match today here at Croke Park. Now, still with me on the presentation panel, we have Martin McHugh, the new Cavan manager, and also Tony Davis of Cork, who played, of course, in the semi-final last weekend. Martin, I suppose there wasn't too much you could say about that in the end. It was very impressive by Dublin. They really did take Leitrim apart.
Yeah, well, I think the game was over as a contest, Michael, at half-time, and the first 10 minutes of the second half, Leitrim they needed a goal and they didn't get it. So Dublin was really only playing the second half. I mean, the game was so open, Dublin were just fist passing the ball. And I think, though, if Leitrim only get beat by a couple of points, they might be expected to win big things next year. If they can go back home now, sit down and gain something out of the experience, they might be back here next year again. But it's a worrying aspect even today for Connacht football, and the same thing was here last year. There's a lot of work that has to be done in Connacht football, and I mean, it was good to see the Galway minor team actually coming through, because there's a lot of work there. When you see it today, like Dublin were definitely in a different class today.
It's not just been today, and it's not just been last year, Martin. It was the previous year as well, because Mayo also were beaten. A bad game, remember, on that occasion.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to, take a good look at Connacht football, the people within it, and try to start at the bottom and build it back up again, because they definitely are a long way behind the rest. You know, I mean, about 10 years ago, people were saying Ulster football were well behind the rest, but there's a lot of work at college football up there, and youth and schools and at minor level, and that has totally helped the thing, and you can see the rewards being reaped now, and hopefully it'll stay that way. And I think Connacht have to do the exact same thing, start at the bottom and build back up.
Tony, let's take a look at some of the incidents from this match this afternoon and sort of retrace exactly what happened in this All-Ireland semi-final. I think the first one we have lined up is Dublin's first goal, which, well, this one proved, I suppose, to be, at the end of the day, a very critical giveaway for Leitrim.
Yeah, yet again, Dublin, they punished them every time they went forward. And Dublin were on a hiding to nothing here today, actually. They were firm favourites to win it. And that sometimes going into a game like this, it would go against you, you know, but they were like executioners. Every chance they got, they took it, and they finished it clinically. You know, they didn't give them a chance to go into the game. Every time they went forward, they got a goal or a point and finished them off very well. You know.
Mind you, when that goal came, things were still fairly tight between the sides. I mean, Leitrim got off to a reasonable start tonight.
Leitrim did very well at the start. Actually, I was actually expecting the first 10 minutes for Dublin to dominate and to really go ahead, but after they got over the first 10 minutes, I was expecting them to hold on till half-time. But as I said, Dublin did the job well. They were very kind of professional in their approach, and they took their chances very, very well. Their forwards particularly, every time they got a chance, they just stuck it between the post. Whereas every time Leitrim went up, they overheld the ball or they fumbled it, and they just didn't get the shot on goal. You know, it's very difficult for them today.
Well, Martin, you can put two boxers into the ring. They can be toe-to-toe. They can be equal in all levels. But if you take a sucker punch, as John O'Mahony said, as Leitrim did just before half-time, then suddenly everything can change. And when Dublin got that second goal, I guess everything did really change.
Yeah, it was a terrible time. Leitrim had begun at half-time. They were still in the match, but it was a terrible, terrible time to concede the goal. And I would say that the heads were probably down in the dressing room at half-time. And it's very, very hard to lift them. They were probably saying, well, you know, this game is nearly over, they would have been saying at half-time. And it's very, very hard to lift them back. And as everybody playing football will know, it's a terrible time to concede a goal in a match, at any level, you know, in a match. And just they conceded a very, very bad time.
And it was more than just the goal, because just up to that point, they had been slipping just gradually that little bit behind. So they would have been anxious to sort of got to the dressing room and before too much damage was done.
Yeah, to get the thing back together again. But they were kind of like, the goal was what Leitrim didn't want to concede. You know, goals were important, and the goals in the end up were the thing that killed them off, really. And the two first half goals were basically probably the worst. It was a bad time to concede goals. If they'd conceded even later on in the match. And we can see that the second goal here. It was a great move by Dublin. This is what they're good at, especially Mick Deegan. He comes forward without the ball and he gets on the end of it. And Mick Galvin, I mean, he took it very, very well. And I mean, it said there were two men inside. He could have passed it on inside. So I think Leitrim were actually caught ball watching a bit, where they were actually watching the ball and not watching their man, especially in their full back line.
It's not to take away in any way, Tony, from Mick Galvin's goal, because it was a superb strike.
Oh, very well taken. The Dublin forwards played very, very well today. But in the end, it was more or less exhibition stuff. They were just playing the ball around, and they weren't even being challenged. They were more like the Harlem Globetrotters in the last 20 minutes. They were just flicking the ball around. You know, it was an unreal situation at that stage. Yeah. But I think Leitrim should take heart from it, really, and not looking at it as the end, but as the beginning of something for them. Like, they're here today, and this is a culmination of 4 or 5 hard years' work. and they can get better, and they will get better. They have some very, very good footballers. Seamus Quinn had a blinder at full back today. He played very, very well, and a few other of them played well. And they have the players. It's just to blend in a couple of more young fellas in with them now and start again. We've been playing them in challenge games over the last 4 or 5 years, and you could see them getting better and better all the time. Let's not hope that this will knock them down or knock out their confidence. They should start again and have another cut off it.
I suppose you have to come to an All-Ireland semi-final and put yourself in this situation to really know what the gap is before you know how much it is you have to do.
Yeah, you find out a lot about yourself in an All-Ireland semi-final, especially up here in Croke Park, because the spaces you have in Croke Park, you wouldn't necessarily get them any other place in Ireland. You know, the field is so big, and it exposes some players, and more people revel in it. And it's just the quality of player. You find out a lot about your team in Croke Park, and I'm sure John O'Mahony found out a lot about his team today. But they never gave up. In the end, even though they were putting on exhibition stuff, they never gave up. They chased and they tried to block down and harry, and their pride is still intact, and they still have enough to build on and come back again.
I'm sure when they sit down and look at the video of this match, Maureen, that one thing that will strike John O'Mahony and his selectors is they let themselves go ragged quite a lot. They let themselves get out of shape quite a lot around the field. Now that's something that should not happen. I mean, you can still keep a shape even though the other team are obviously a more talented team than you.
Yeah, well, I think when they conceded the goals, I think the discipline kind of went a bit. And as well as that, Seamus Quinn had a great game at fullback. And Pat Donoghue played well in the middle of the field for him as well. But Pat seemed to run out of steam 10 minutes into the second half, and they started losing in that area. And they were kind of, we've seen Hurricane even playing a cornerback at one stage, and that's no good. Like, your best forward has to be in the forward line. And they worked very hard and they tried very hard. But the fact of as Tony was saying, Dublin kept, every time they went up the field, they got a score easy enough, and Leitrim had to work very hard at the other end. But I think if they use the experience they got today, go back, sit down, and John O'Mahony will do their homework, and I still think that Leitrim are probably still the best team in Connacht at the minute, and there's no reason why they can't come back out next year and use the experience they got.
We looked at 2 Dublin goals. Leitrim, of course, got a goal themselves in the second half. Now, it might have been to do no more than take a little bit of a look off the score, but it was very well taken by Colin McLean. We're going to take a look at that goal now. It was very cool. Here it comes.
Yeah, well, I think during the week what I heard that Leitrim were going to try to run at the Dublin defence, and this was maybe the only time they'd done it. It was a good pass from Barry Breen who came on, and he took it very well. He done what every player should do, keep the ball down on the carpet, and it's harder for a keeper to get down, especially against a keeper like John O'Leary. You have to keep the ball down, and he took that goal very well, and it was good to see Leitrim get it, because they deserved it for the work they put in the second half.
Well, as we said, it's when Leitrim look back at this year, they look back at it as a good year, obviously, in having won the Connacht Championship. Whatever happened today, Dublin go into the All-Ireland final against Down. It's Dublin won't really know much about themselves as a result of this game today.
Well, I think that's the problem that Pat O'Neill and the selectors have, is that they haven't really been tested today. But I think they're going to be very, very hard to beat in All-Ireland final. I think Down are definitely have been the foreign team in the year, but that doesn't really matter in All-Ireland final. And I think after the last couple of years, Dublin would feel they should have won All-Ireland. They're going to be very, very hard to beat in the All-Ireland final. And I think maybe the GE in general would like Dublin to win the All-Ireland after, the World Cup and all that there. Dublin winning the All-Ireland would be good, because the country teams always like to come up and beat the Dubs up here. And it'd be good for GE. But Down's going to be hard to beat. And I think we've been making some a very, very good All-Ireland final, and that's what we need this year.
But Tony, you know, I suppose more than anybody else, how good this Down team are, and this is the big question everybody's been asking during the week. What about Cork? Did you not play well on the day, or were they just too good?
Or on the day, obviously they were very good. They played very good football, but on the day we didn't really do ourselves justice. I think we're a better team than we played here last Sunday. But just looking at the Dublin team, and in comparison to the Down team, the Dublin backs are the only back line in Ireland at the moment that could hold the Down forward line. They play as a unit. Even today, I'd say they'll be sorry that they conceded a goal. I think, like all back lines, they play as a unit. And as a unit, they conceded a goal, and they won't like that. And it'll be very interesting to see what they'll do against Down. A big change in Dublin this year is that their half-backs stay back. They don't go forward anymore. Yeah. You don't see, although it was a bit unreal today, all right, you might see McDeegan in the forward line, but ordinarily they'll stay back and they'll try and crowd their half of the field and try and let the space up in the forward line for their own. That will not suit Down. Down will be trying to do the same things with their backs, so it'll be interesting to see what transpires in the game. But to be a very good game, like, we need a good game of football this year. All the rest of the games have been quite scrappy, So for the game, to be nice to have a classic final. And the two teams are very well matched. To be anybody's call to who will win it, I think Down are going very well, and they've been going well consistently for a long time. Dublin, on the other hand, kind of have periods during the game where they lapse, they tend to fall asleep, and I think against Down, they can't afford that. They'll just have to keep going for the 70 minutes, and they can lapse their concentration. So a very interesting final. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
The one difference in Dublin this year to other years is we often see Dublin flying at the early stages of the summer, partly because of their structure in club football, partly because of the fact they always go for the league sort of in a fairly big way. They've been different this year. They actually started quite badly and have improved.
Yeah, I think that maybe them being beat so early in the league was maybe they were sorry about that because they could have got caught against Kildare ahead of them not going on in the league. Right. But I think that their forward line are playing well. The back line as a unit are good, and it's been interesting. The two players that have actually played very well this year, and they're not much worried about them, has been DC and Moran. Now they're going to go up against Farrell and London in the final now, and I think that them two players, DC had a great match there today, and I think it's going to be an interesting battle. The full forward line as well. I mean, they all scored something like 3-7, 3-9, 3-9. I think it was. They scored in the full forward line. I mean, that's good scoring from the full forward line. And I think that Dublin are going to be hard to beat, and Down they'll do their homework on there today, and Dublin will figure out that if they can stop the supply ball going into the down full forward line, especially London and Farrell, that really in with a chance.
Now that's one of the interesting things you see about a match like today. Now Desi Farrell today scored a goal and 2 points, but Desi hasn't been in the last year or two sort of hitting the target very much, and we got to ask ourselves, is it because Desi has suddenly started playing very well, or because scores are coming handy for him today?
Well, I think he's definitely started to play better. You know, he got a goal and 2 points today. The other thing was that Joe Honeyman actually let him out in front of him all the time today. He should have played. You actually have to play in front of players like Desi. But he's very good and he's very, very strong on the ball. And he scored a great point even with his right foot. But he's shown that he's just not all left-footed. And he's having a great season, and he's going to be hard to hold in the final.
Well, here's Desi's goal coming up, and I thought the goalkeeper was a little bit rash in making a dive out of this one.
Yeah, he done very well. He held his head there. He could have kicked there, but he cut back inside very well. And I mean, he took it very well. He done the exact right thing that a forward in that instant would like to do. And he's sharp. He seems to be playing with great confidence, which is important. And he's kicking with both feet. And he's having a good year so far. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the final.
I'm sure he has Donegal connections as well. Where would he leave it?
Yeah, well, this is it. We're still hoping that there might be an All-Ireland medal up in Donegal, because he was up there last week actually in Donegal, and I was chatting to him, and when he comes up we go out for a drink together.
Yeah.
He lives in Glencullen.
That's right.
Mother's from Glencullen.
That's right. Let me just go back to the Dublin defence again, Tony, which you had been talking about earlier. I suppose on a day like today there can be one downside for a player. Like Kieran Walsh was taken off at the end. Now, it might have been just to try a few things out, but nobody wants to be taken off before the big game, before an All-Ireland final, in case it's a portent of things to come.
Yeah. Well, I say going into today's game, the first thing on some of the Dublin players' mind, well, I'm playing for a place in the All-Ireland final, because that's what a lot of them would have been thinking of. Obviously, you have to put away a team like Leitrim, and that's what they'll be thinking of. The big day in September, and will I get my place? Paul Clark or Paul Curran will definitely, if his jaw is okay, will definitely come into the half back line, and he's a very, very good player, and that will tighten it up a lot in the back. It will be very interesting because as a unit they've been playing very well, very defensive, and there's not too many scores going in against them. As regards Down's backline are quite tight as well, so it will be very hard to call it, you know, till the end of the day, and we'll just see who'll come out with the right attitude on the day.
Gentlemen, let's talk about two other teams just briefly for a moment. Martin, in your own case, of course, you've taken over now as manager of Cavan, and you've given yourself obviously a task to do there to put Cavan football back on the map again.
Yeah, well, it's something I wanted to do, to go into management, and Cavan gave me the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to it. We had trials there yesterday, and hopefully next week now we'll have trials again, and we'll sit down and pick a panel and hope to get selectors and that sorted out. I'm looking forward to it. It's a big challenge. Cavan football has not been going well. It's a big challenge, but they're very eager and they're hungry there, and hopefully that'll rub off. You know?
And very briefly, Tony, what about Cork? Can you get it all back together for next year?
Oh, I think so, yeah. We'll take a break and take it in the cold light of dawn and reassess our situation and come back again and try again.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on the panel here today. So that's it from Croke Park. I leave you with a reminder that I hope you'll be able to join me for the Sunday game later on in the night at 8 o'clock here on Network 2 for a review of today's big match. For the moment, though, bye-bye.
Well, today, McGalvin inside to Niall Guyden. And this is the free-moving Dublin attack that we've all come to admire over the last few years. McDeegan into Galvin, and that's buried, and that's a brilliant goal. That was a wonderful score.